And you know, we started out first quickly with a business card type idea, an old idea. I used to give these out when I was a kid. And in the back, the quickest nutshell of who I am, I should have read from that. And our signs hit the street early, before everybody else. They're very fantastic signs, and maybe I'll show you one in the final few minutes. And now there's, in fact, there's a giant sign appeared over at the hardware store in Berkeley Heights. It has the photos of myself and the two other candidates. And now there are two independents running for council that joined us. I knew nothing about them. About 4 or 5 days before the primary, they surfaced. So I said, well, I'm an independent, you're independent, might as well be on the same line. Two young men meet that qualification I mentioned 2 years ago. Family men, kids, wanting to run independent. They may or may not have been in other parties. I think one was, one wasn't. So it doesn't matter. I'm very pleased about that. And what I've learned so far in 4 or 5 weeks is they're going to make a very good appearance. But I'm running for mayor. Okay. And that's my key. Are there any special advantages or disadvantages to having a family member running the campaign? There's some disadvantages because she yells at me. You know, it gives a daughter a chance, right, to get back. But some of those dinner table conversations can get challenging. Advantage, though, because she's so sharp. You know, she's a litigator, lawyer. She's in her early 40s. And my older girl, by the way, is a survivor of 9/11. Actually, I call her a heroine survivor. Worked for the World Trade Center. But Joanne, the campaign manager, I think is a big plus. All the others love her when they work with her. So I think that's a plus for the campaign. We're off to a great start. We're going to speak to 3 groups. The seniors is a group. We're going to speak to the Taxpayers Association this year for the first time in 3 years that they're going to have a meeting, and the League of Women Voters, which is a televised campaign night, candidate night. So, and then we do the usual mailings. Will be a mailing. John, let's fast forward because I want to make sure we take advantage of the time we have here. We got about another 10 minutes before we finish up. So let's get into the issues. And why don't you tell me what you think are the key issues that are on your mind and should be on the minds of the voters? Okay, I think the key in the street vernacular is money, money, money. In a little bit more normal parlance, it's taxes, spending, looking at infrastructure. Those are key issues. The budget, the taxes come out of the budget. So I have approaches to all of those. And there are other issues that have to do with the laws and ordinances and the way some things have been done in town that I don't particularly care for. But those are real key issues that I can address. And what do you see as perhaps some of the key differences between you and your opponent, or if it turns out to be opponents, but at least the budget and taxes. I mean, the 3 years before I was elected, the taxes in Berkeley Heights went up 9%, 9%, 9%, 27%. And I made a big point of that. Maybe that's why I was elected. They didn't care I was a Democrat in those days. And then for 3 years, 4 years I've been elected, the first year I was one of 6. I think I contributed, but I learned from the auditor and I asked questions and I made a few suggestions for large deductions. But I think my opponent was like slash some people and stuff. I don't think that way. And then for 2 years, when he had a brief coalition there, the head of the Democratic Party, the second man in the Republican, myself and Jerry Nelson as independents, we formed a subcommittee with residents involved. So I ran those two in 2008, 2009 for 0% tax and a 2.7% tax. Mr. Bruno voted against the 0% tax increase. He's a Republican. It's unbelievable. I don't know what his reasons were, to tell the truth. But I saved the people that year $750,000. I paid it back to them in a surplus and by lowering the tax. In 2009, it was a 2.7% tax increase. I had Dr. Forger, Dr. McDonald, Mrs. Robbins, Mr. Long, Mr. D'Amelio. These were all residents who I sucked into coming forward, working on a resident committee. That was more important. I was just a grunt. I knocked the numbers out, and I
kept the other council members informed. So that's a big difference between me. Now, I'm out of it. They kept me out of it this year. No finance subcommittee, supposed to lead a whole 6. Mr. Bruno's running it. 9% tax increase. So, big difference. Yeah. Granted, it's a hard year. Sure. I'd be the last to say it wasn't a hard year.
Well, let me ask you this. Now that you've been in the public eye for a little while, and you've taken some strong positions, are there any, what you believe might be misperceptions out there in the voting population about you that you would like to adjust or correct?
Well, there are probably 2. I hit the table a couple times. Somebody irritated me. I had to get their attention. I didn't have to gavel. I wasn't the mayor. And I was fighting for the people. So if someone saw a disagreement, they called it bickering. I called it democracy. So some people get that idea that, you know, being a counter to whatever, but there wasn't a good, positive alternate role, and I fought for those items. The other one was in the area of education. There's still some people in the school boards and stuff that had the wrong idea, but as you can tell from my educational background, professor, teacher, I mean, nothing could be further from the truth. I'm strong on primary, secondary education. My daughters are my living proof, in addition to myself and my teaching experience. So I think people ought to look a little closer at that. And they may have some impression, but you know, you can't be weak if you're going to run the show.
Okay. So let's give you an opportunity. You've said a number of things about your experience, your background, your positions, what you think are the important issues. If you could just spend the next few minutes, forget that I'm here, although I'm here as a voter, but forget that I'm here as your interview partner, and talk to all the voters, not just me, but talk to all the Berkeley Heights voters. Tell them what you think are the reasons why you will make a good mayor for Berkeley Heights.
Well, I'll start with an answer first, that I love our town. You know, I think it's a great town. I want to continue to serve. I want to do more of what I have done, continue to do it. I want to be mayor. I actually do. No matter how I got into it, I can do it. And I believe I can do it better than anybody else. A few examples. The mayor, the first mayor we had in his new form of government, Mayor Cohen, he changed the votes of council people 3 times. I am not going to change the vote of any council people, even if I disagree with them strongly. They were elected by the people. They will vote according to their conscience and what their residents tell them they want them to do. So I won't do that. And there was some manipulation done that way. Also, there were 2 discrimination suits. Both happened to be against women. One a manager and one a sort of teacher in the town. And this is from top down. And then the council people seemed to go along. And my opponent didn't fight it like I did. Both cases were lost. We lost them as a town. The EEOC put a finding out, and we were in violation of 2 civil rights laws. That isn't going to happen if I'm the mayor. In fact, I know some of the people responsible, they'll hold the mayor always responsible at the top of the line. The buck stops with the mayor. But somebody will be gone who does that.
Given in hindsight about the learning from those cases, is there anything that you and the council can do to either change the atmosphere or the expectations that will eliminate that kind of incident?
Yeah, Bill, there is, because in the executive and legislative branch of government, it's very clear, the attorneys have written us memos. The council cannot direct employees. They can ask questions, get information. I'm a researcher. I'm always out asking them questions. I don't tell them what to do. There's been some telling what to do. That kind of leads to this frustration. Only the mayor and the administrator in our form of government can direct the people. So that's a big problem. Council people have to understand what executive mean and legislative mean. I may sound crazy saying this because we have executive and legislative in the state. We have it in the federal. You'd think by now that we learned it in high school, we know what it's all about. But I think it's been misunderstood here as we transition government. So that's something I would try to reemphasize.
Okay. Anything else that occurs to you that you want to make sure that the voters either understand about you as a person or your positions, or why you do have the confidence that you just articulated about doing the job?
Oh, sure. I am a professional manager. I've been an executive in a Fortune 200 company. I will manage the way we solve science problems, basically. We break them down, one by one, step at a time, solve the smaller pieces. That's the way it should be done, day to day, professionally minded. Anybody who doesn't work that way isn't going to last long working with me. They just, you know, and I'll help all the people who have a little trouble doing that. It's always been my style. And I think people ought to know that I would work that way. And there's, for example, and I have ideas. There's going to be some change in appointments. Anybody who cost us money, somebody cost us $100 grand on fire trucks. I'm a big believer in the volunteers. I don't want to cut the money out from the rescue squad. I want to give them a few bucks extra. I don't want to hurt the fire department for equipment, and I want it in a timely manner. We had an issue where we had an unsafe senior bus. They delayed it, you know. We have the new bus now. I worked with my compatriots, and we finally got it for them. We have to do those things. Those are very important things to do. And then there's the recent big tax break for a corporate citizen. It's in the newspapers and all, so it's no secret. I believe the mayor made a mistake. I believe the tax assessor, well, he was technically correct, used poor judgment. And I'm going to try to get a tax assessor board put in. I've already mentioned it to the attorneys. I don't know if you can have both a board and an assessor, but if I can't, then I'm going to have an ad hoc adjunct board. And I'm going to use people.
Excuse me for interrupting you. We're in the final few seconds here. So I wanted to ask you, you mentioned the League of Women Voters Night.
Yes.
Do you know the date of that this year?
Yes, it's October 21st.
Okay, so we're going off the air here in a few seconds.
Okay.
I just want to thank you for being with us, John. Good luck, of course, in your campaign.
I want to thank you.
Thanks for coming to Hometown TV.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
I love Hometown TV.
So we've been with John Bonacci, independent candidate for mayor, and we appreciate John taking the time to come here and be with us in the studio. We hope you, as the voters, found this 30 minutes informative, and that it will help you to be educated, informed, intelligent voters on Election Day. Thank you.